We often hear the statement about us as South Africans being mentioned that we are a resilient nation. And it always sounds so great. And you look back over your life and you think, yeah, you know what, actually, if we look at some of the things that we go through, we're very resilient. Also, with great humor in efforts of trying to remain resilient. And it's one of those things that we say, man, we love it so much. But how does one actively develop this in their lives? How do you have an ability to develop that bounce back ability, if I could say, and to be resilient despite what you face, despite having something that makes you feel like your day is going south and there's no way of, returning from it? Well, that's where I call on a friend, Joni Peddie, who is a distinguished professional speaker and team performance strategist. She is a resilience specialist. And I remember the first time I met her, I was just like, Joni, I am making you my friend for good, because you're one of those people I want to have in my corner and in my pocket, but also I don't always want to talk to you because you'll challenge me out of my space. And I just thought, there's no one else that I need to be calling to start this conversation other than Joni. Joni, it's good to have you. Welcome to Drive 3 to 6.
Thanks, Kgosi. It's lovely to see you again. We can see each other. People can only hear us, but I can see your gorgeous face, which is wonderful on Zoom.
Incredible, Joni. Thank you for making time to chat to us this afternoon. Joni, I was just talking about it earlier on, asking people about what is something that happened once that you thought ruined your day, and now you look back at it and laughing, and just thinking, man, I can't believe that happened. And so many of us have been in that space. A coffee spill, a child that left their school bag just as you're 2 kilometers away from the school, to an accident that had you in traffic for 4 hours before an interview, a job interview. So many different things go on, but that's a moment for us to try to see a glimpse of what it can look like to be resilient. But I know for a lot of us, we hear this word, we hear it often mentioned about South Africa, but we actually have no idea what it means. So maybe let's start there with defining what it means when we speak about resilience.
Okay, let's do exactly that. And Kgosi, you know me, I like to say things in a simple, memorable way. So if you want to, and goodness gracious, my children laugh at me when I say, yes, sometimes I'd love to dance on the dining room table. You want a resilient dining room table if you want a person to jump up on top of it. So a good table has got 4 legs, and that's exactly resilience. So resilience is a big bandied about word, but how do we really define it? The first leg of the table is you've got to have physical resilience. So you and I, the last time we chatted about how do we sleep, how do we exercise, how do we eat. That's your physical resilience. The second leg of the table, you've got to have mental resilience. So pretty much what you've just described, if you're stuck in a traffic jam and you're trying to get to a job interview, you're going to have to, be mentally resilient and go, okay, how do I position this? How can I do this honestly? Where's the where to from here? So that's your mental resilience. Your third leg of your sturdy, resilient table is your emotional resilience. And I've had children who forget their school bag and forget their lunchbox and their hockey kit and whatever. And you get mad because you've got to go somewhere, but now you've got to go home, fetch it, take it to the school. So emotionally, we have to be resilient, and we've got to navigate our emotions. They're no good or bad emotions. And then the fourth sturdy leg, this is a beautiful radio station and close to my heart, is our spiritual resilience. So that is your fourth sturdy leg. And we've got to have all 4. And there are no big tricks to it. You've got to be mindful about all 4 legs. And you opened the segment by speaking about we as South Africans are a resilient nation. I work globally, and I would agree with you 100%. And I would also agree with you, Kgosi, is that we have great humor in South Africa. We've got self-depreciating humor. We can laugh at ourselves, laugh at each other, and not many nations can just, put up the mirror and laugh at themselves. So, let's all have a sturdy table so we can dance in it and be joyous.
I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing people dancing on top of tables that are sturdy, especially. But let's talk about, developing it, because this is where it gets interesting, Joni. I think a lot of us always go, no, but, Amanda, she's just got it together. Amanda's just got this ability to just bounce back after whatever she's been through. Thabo, he lost his mom and his dad and his house, and to see him become the man he is and lead his own family is incredible. That we sometimes disqualify ourselves in being resilient, especially in the sense of I can develop the resilience. This is especially what I'm interested in. How do we navigate that especially?
Yeah, so I mean, let's go with Tabu. So he needs to lead his own family, and I have trademarked bounce forward. So I think the English phrase of bounce back is a ridiculous phrase. And actually, if I had my way in every English dictionary around the world, that phrase would be eradicated. No more bounce back. Because if you think about it, whether it's Amanda Tabu, whatever's happening in our lives, you could have been retrenched. You could be even chasing an opportunity of starting your own entrepreneurial business. You don't bounce back. You bounce forward. You're going to start this, particular business, and you're looking for opportunities, or you are navigating grief. You are not bouncing back because that person has died. You've got to bounce forward. So first of all, I like to, exercise optimism as a way of rewiring the brain. And actually all of those 4 legs to our sturdy table don't just happen. We can't say, hey, Joni's resilient and Tabu's not, or vice versa. Actually, it's a learnt set of skills. Physical resilience, you can learn some skills, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So we've got to decide where we're going to learn, because most of us are overwhelmed and suffering uncertainty and anxiety and too much to do. So you've got to say, pick a leg, and I want to learn to be more emotionally resilient. So what is the one thing I could do? And here's a very simple but neuroscience-backed habit. If you want to become more emotionally resilient, and I do this every single night in my shower, is I go, what were the 3 good things that happened today? Because what do we normally do when we shower or, get ready for bed is we normally go, jeepers, I didn't get that document in on time, and I didn't go and collect, the food for that tomorrow, and I didn't whatever. Our brains are a survival organ. So they're normally wired to what could go wrong or what has gone wrong. So if we could, at the end of every day, just make a beautiful habit, while you're showering, before you pray, during your prayer, what were specifically the 3 good things? Not that, you're happy to have your dog or your cat. It's got to be, actually I got feedback in a meeting, and that person gave me feedback that was tough, but it was good, that I know that in my jovial way, I tend to sometimes offend people. So, joyous things and 3 good things for the day don't have to be rah-rah jolly hockey sticks. They can be, oh my goodness, I've got a kind of a wrap over my knuckles, and I need to take that into account. So that's one practical technique of strengthening the leg of the emotional resilience leg of the sturdy table.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that specifically. I've got a feature that I do on the show every Friday where I say, tell me something good that happened to you in the last 7 days. And I kid you not, Joni, every single week it's just like a nothing because we have to build the ability to recognize the good that's happening. And I can imagine having done that every day, how it will actually position you and strengthen you emotionally, which brings you to the question of, but then is there a difference from saying someone is resilient or someone is just like suppressing the pain and just keeping it moving and just keep going? Because I know when we speak about South Africans being resilient people, there's oftentimes I'm just like, no, I don't want to be resilient. Like, let's get our things together. Let's get this nation on the road. I don't want to just be this person who's like, oh, it's tough, but you know what? We keep rising to the occasion. Is there a difference between the two? Because I can imagine that someone might be going, yes, resilience, but actually you're saying I must shut things down.
No, gee, you are spot on the money there, Kgosi, is that we don't want toxic positivity. We don't want rah-rah, all good, and we shut things down. So we've really got to have a look at how can we be radically candid. And there's some fantastic research by a lady by the name of Kim Scott, and she talks about radical candor. And it's really the intersect of 2 axes. You got to care for the person personally that you're speaking to. So you got to, speak with empathy and deep care, but you have to be direct and courageous. So interpersonally, from an emotional resilience perspective, if you and I had an argument about or a debate about a show next week, and I believe strongly it should be this type of show, you should believe it strongly it's another show, we've got to be radically candid and honest and direct with one another. You then took it a step further to say, and sorry, I'm going to take it, not exactly your words, but let's not shut down our emotions. What we do know from emotional resilience, and most of your brain is emotional centers. There's a very tiny bit that's the prefrontal cortex, that's the decision making, but the rest is emotional, is don't ever shut down your emotions. So if you are feeling angry, and I had this last weekend, I was actually with my 95-year-old father-in-law, my late husband's father, in Durban, and something had gone wrong, and I just kept on crying. And he said, Joni, let me pray with you, let me put my hands on you, and we're going to work through this together. And it was an unsolvable problem. And I said, no, I'm feeling sad and miserable and very sorry for myself right now. So I'm having what we call the Victoria victim party. I'm having a party, I'm the victim, and I'm going to feel sorry for myself. And I cried the whole way through a brunch that we were having. So why do I tell you that little story is because we need to name your emotions to tame them. So from a neuroscience perspective, if you name your emotions, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm irritated, I am, any of those, we sometimes say those are negative emotions. No, there are no negative emotions. I'm just saying that is the state that I'm in. Will I stay in that forever? Of course I won't. But at the moment, excuse me, that's how I'm feeling. So let's never put emotions down. And I'll loop back to what I started saying. And on our surface of our face, we look positive and happy. No, you want to be real. So radically candid and real with your emotions. And especially now, we look at globally, the stats of suicide are up 60%. That is 60. And there's a lot, really in young males are the cohort that I worry about, because, they'll go and watch a soccer match and have a beer afterwards and whatever, but they won't tell their mates that actually inside they are crumbling, because it's, it's not manly to say, I'm really struggling. Sure. Emotionally or mentally. So that cohort, and it doesn't matter what race we're talking about, it's across races, but it's the young men that I'm most worried about.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Joni, because I think it's a very real thing of the struggle and that tussle and that tension of trying to navigate being strong in facing emotions and not suppressing emotions. I'm looking forward to the fact that we're going to have a conversation today and next week, Thursday, specifically talking about developing resilience in children, which is something that is such a powerful thing to be able to leave our children with. But for the adults that are listening to us right now and they're going, man, this is speaking to me. I'm feeling some type of way. I'm feeling aspirational, even to what Joni is describing. I just don't know where to start. I don't know what to do today. As we wrap up our conversation, Joni, what do you say to that person? What are maybe two things that you could leave with someone to say, hey, try these two? I know you've already spoken about, gratitude at the end of the day, 3 things to build emotional resilience. What are 2 things that you say a person can try to do today that would already start to position them, possibly even pivot them to a point where they have this newfound view of, it is something that is existing in me and I can just keep nurturing it from here?
Okay, so the 2 things with specificity, the first is definitely sleep. Because if you wake up tomorrow morning and you are tired and dragging your knuckles through the day, is that you're not going to feel resilient to find out different ways to solve problems, to make decisions. So sleep is your superpower. So what can I do today? Please all go Lala tonight. First of all, switch off your computers, your phone and your TV an hour or an hour and a half before you go to sleep, and try and get 7 hours of deep sleep. That's the aim, okay? So that's, people go, okay, that's not so exciting. And it's not so exciting, but if we're building a house, we want to build a solid foundation. So for resilience, sleep is your solid foundation. If you're not getting good sleep, number of hours and quality sleep, you are going to build a house on sand, and sand is going to shift and that house is going to crumble. So that's the first thing, is prioritize your sleep. The second thing is also, this whole body is an ecosystem. So your brain, your heartfelt emotions, your gut, your legs, everything is one system. It's beautifully designed. sometimes we feed the ecosystem with rubbish. So processed foods and sugar and carbonated soft drinks and too much coffee in the afternoon and all of that. And then you want to be mentally and emotionally resilient. Mental and emotional resilience, we can also talk more about that next week also with the children, but they're intertwined. You can't be emotionally resilient if you're not mentally resilient. And if you're putting diesel in a petrol car, that car is not going to be resilient. So put good food into your mouth, God-given good food that you would pluck off a tree or pull out the ground. That's what I'm calling good food, okay?
Sure, Joni. I
so
think
two things, eat well and sleep well.
I think there's some people probably going, oh goodness, that was not the direction I was hoping for. I was hoping for something practical, but man, it's speaking to me 100%. Joni, thank you so much. I look forward to unpacking it more next week when we meet up again. And of course, talk about being able to pass it down to our children, that as they grow up to be resilient people who are able to stand in the face of whatever it is that they challenge and thrown by. So thank you so much for joining us, Joni. Always a great pleasure chatting to you.
Beautiful. Sleep tight. Cheers for now.
Absolutely will sleep well. It's Joni Peddie, who is a distinguished professional speaker, team performance strategist, and more importantly, a resilience specialist, chatting to us this afternoon about the ability and the actual option that we have, you and I, to become a resilient people. That is not something that happens haphazardly, but we make a decision to do that, and it starts tonight with a good amount of sleep.